I'd just like to take a quick moment before we get into the video to say I'm not really going to be uploading as regularly as usual for the next 2 months because I have to focus on exams, which means that uploading is going to be really restricted, which is such a shame because we were sort of getting into the How to Draw series, and then I've already had to be doing a lot of work, so that means that this video has taken so long to come out, and it was supposed to come out in a couple of weeks after the previous video, and it's been a month. But I am working on a new series, and it's going to be coming out once I'm done with my exams, so hopefully at the beginning of June, so just get through April and May. And it's not, the videos aren't as heavy duty as the drawing tutorial videos, which take like a couple of days to make. These are just quick 5-minute drawings that are sped up to a 30-second video, lots of them. It'll be like the World War II series again. I'm not going to say what the series is on, I'm going to leave it to be a surprise, but I am going to say that I have an entire envelope filled with these drawings that I've been making over the past week for you guys, and they look absolutely epic. So unfortunately this does mean that for those people that wanted the American Civil War videos, they're going to have to wait even longer, and I'm really sorry about that. And it does mean that for the people that wanted the Roman videos, they are going to have to wait as well. I can't really do much about that, but everything, I'm going to trickle out a video in between now and June, and then as soon as June happens, everything will hopefully continue as normal, or actually be even better, because I won't have any schoolwork to do whatsoever. So anyway, thank you for listening to my speech. So, same as before, we're going to start off with the helmet. I've drawn a little grape that we can put the helmet on, and so the helmet would start again just above the eye lines, and then we'll just make ourselves pretty much a pot like how we did before. The only difference is here there's like a hole that goes around the ear, which is very helpful. Now the helmet gets sort of like a visor plate almost halfway up the helmet, and I think that's just to stop swords and weapons going into the face from above. So think kind of like an incomplete baseball cap. Now by the ears, the helmet does come down quite a bit down the back of the head, so it comes down to about here under the ear, and then we get this plate which is quite new to the back of the helmet, and it goes all the way around the back of the head like a dish. So if this person's head was see-through, you'd see it come round to the other ear and then come back up like this. Right, cheek guards are always important, so we'd start coming down just a little bit down to about the eyes, and then come out a little bit here, slightly under the eyes, go back in, and then we come out by the chin. So we have almost like a bay in the cheek guard, and it should swing round kind of like this. And then on the other side we'd only see a little bit, so it'd be this bit poking round the side of the face, and this bit that points into the chin, like so. And I think I am going to move the centre of the face over just a little bit so that this actually makes sense. So his nose would be there. I'm going to go ahead and fine liner this real quick. So, depending on the scale at which you're drawing this person, this head is pretty small, but actually compared to the size that I usually draw my people, it's probably about twice as big. So you'd have like a golden outline, usually anyway, on the cheek guards, which would go all the way around like this, and then you'd have, I think they're just bolts, but they come in, so into these bits that go out, and then one in the middle here. And then you'd get one on the back of the plate that protects his neck, just there. Then you'd also have a strip of golden material that would just go above the bottom of the helmet, like this, and then you'd probably get like a groove down the middle as well. I say it's golden, but it probably wouldn't actually be gold, it's more likely to be brass or something. 2 more bolts on the side above the cheek guard, and then where the metal comes around the ear, you have this piece of metal that pokes out the side of the helmet to deflect blows towards the side of the head. Right, so there's the gist of the helmet, but sometimes you would have almost like a pattern that might sometimes appear just on the cranium, so you might have almost like wings up here. These were pretty common as well. And then if you'd have a plume, you might have just a small piece of metal here. So now we're going to look into armouring our guy. So the Roman soldier from this period that we're doing, which is about the 1st century AD, would wear the lorica segmentata, which was basically just a vest made up of interlocking metal plates that would cover the whole body. So we'd start off with 2 pieces of metal that would just go over the shoulders, and they'd sort of curve around the body so that they were comfortable and they'd fit on naturally. And these would reach down just below the shoulder on the soldier, and you'd have one on either side of him, like this. Then under here you'd have another one. I think there were different versions of the lorica segmentata, but the majority of them were pretty much the same, but you might have different sizes of the plates that would go over the shoulder, for example. Then you'd have a bigger piece under here that would just go under the middle one, like this. After this you'd have 2 smaller pieces that were about half the length of the previous ones that would just go under the first 3, like this. So then across the top of the shoulders, the pieces of metal would be like conjoined by basically rivets of metal that would run along the top of the plates, like this, and then you'd see the line where the 2 pieces of plate metal sort of connect together. So then under the shoulder plates you'd have 2 plates that would protect the upper half of the torso, and they would just sit under the plates that protect the shoulders, and then those would be fastened together by strips of leather which would just go in between here like this. And they do make like a natural U-neck for the neck. Then from here it gets pretty repetitive, but you have plates of metal that bend around the body and then they meet in the middle, and then they would be fastened together by bits of leather or bits of lace, and so they should sort of overlap each other all the way down. Then each of these plates on the bottom corner towards the middle, it would have a small brass buckle, and this is where the lace would be tied into so that the plates could be fastened together. So that's pretty much it. Then there were a couple of different ways that you could protect the lower parts of the legs. One would be like a series of bits of leather that would just dangle underneath the armour like this, and they'd overlap each other. So they were very mobile and cheap to make, so something like this. But the thing that everyone is more familiar with is a series of leather straps that were covered in bits of small plate metal that would just protect the groin, and it would go down to about the bottom of the tunic. Then at the very bottom of these you'd have almost like a spade-like piece of metal just to finish it off and give it a cool look. Don't think there was a particular purpose for these, but they just are what they wore, so. And then under all of this clutter you would have his tunic. Now it would be in our best interests to give the person we're drawing some weapons. I'm not really going to go over weapons as such because I already did that in the last video. If you haven't seen the last video, there's a link in the description, and then you can just fast forward to the bit where I show you how to draw swords and spears and stuff. But I think it'd be worth looking at how shields were drawn, because there were some very interesting shield designs and the shape changes, but the weapons stay pretty much exactly the same. So the way you draw the shield really depends on the angle that you're looking at it, because it's a funny shape. But the point of it was that it would curve so that you could hide your body behind it. So that's where I'd start. So I'd start off with the top, which would naturally curve, and then the bottom I'd make it curve upwards as well. like this. And then it depends what shield you have, because some Roman shields were like almost rectangular, so the sides would be straight, but other ones they'd sort of go out like a barrel, so you'd have a much wider side, and I'm pretty sure centurions would use shields like this because there's a lot more protection to it. But it just doesn't interlock with other shields as well. But I'll stick to the normal shape, and then in the middle you'd have the boss, which is just the plate of metal that would protect the wearer's hand on the other side. And it would just look like this. So now that my shield is fine-lined, I thought we could look at some of the designs that the Roman shields would have. Now there was like hundreds of them, so I'm not going to be able to do all of them, but I will do some of the really common ones. So you might have like, I'm not actually sure what these are, but they're like unicorn horns. That's just what they look like, and they sort of come out the side and cut the shield in half. And then you might have arrows coming out of the boss as well, so painted on. And then sometimes they would zigzag. I always find drawing these are really annoying, so you have to sort of think backwards to get them symmetrical. And then they'd have a point on the top, like this. Then Romans were really quite common to put wings on their shields as well, which look really nice. I'm not actually sure why. I think it's supposed to like resemble one of the gods perhaps, but I'm not sure. If someone does know, I'd be happy to hear. And then from here you're welcome to colour it in any colour that you want. So you might have the background colour of the shield red, you might have your wings and your horns yellow, and then you might leave the arrows white, for example. I had to look at a lot of reference images to make these videos, and yet I haven't found a shield that has like a boss that isn't made of a grey metal, so I pretty much always draw that grey. So feel totally free to come up with some of your own designs or just copy some off the internet. Now, even though red was probably the most common colour used, don't shy away from doing things like black and blue and even white sometimes. It will all really depend on, you know, what's preferable to you and what suits best for your legionary. So now that we've gone over the shape of the shields, it's beneficial to look at how you actually draw the shields on the people, because if you draw the shields just plainly, so like how I've demonstrated the shape, it sort of looks weird and it's unrealistic, and this is how I used to do it, and it's wrong. You want to make it look like the person is hiding behind the shield, or the shield is wrapping itself almost around the person. So here we have an incomplete Roman soldier, and he's throwing his pilum. Now we want him to be holding a shield in the way that shows that he's protected by it. So I would always start off with a straight line, regardless of whether your shield has like a bend in it, like we did before. And then it should sort of curve, so it should curve upwards towards the person. And then if, say, we wanted to do the version of the shield where it does have like a curved side, the side that's facing towards the person would be curved, whereas the side that's facing towards the enemy would be straight, because the rest of the shield disappears behind itself. Bear in mind that the middle is not exactly in the middle of the actual drawing. The middle is actually further to the side, because the rest of the shield is behind it.